life. Everything I've ever wanted is already mine. I can do anything I put my mind to. I'm good at everything I do. Wealth is my birthright. I was born to be wealthy. I was born to be successful. Everything I touch turns to gold. I am an inspirational person. Good opportunities flow to me daily. The universe is looking out for me. I share my wealth and more keeps coming to me. I love being a generous person. The love energy I put out comes back to me tenfold. My life is magical. I am grateful for another day in this wonderful life. Everything I've ever wanted is already mine. I can do anything I put my mind to. I'm good at everything I do.
Well, hello and welcome to the Law of One Book Club. Hi, everyone. Happy Thursday. Happy June 27th of 2024. Hello, beautiful souls, all of you. Hello to my mother who's in this group. Hi, I see you. Hi, Wendy. Welcome to the party. Hi, the other Wendy. See you as well. Hello, Katie. Hi. Jenna, welcome back. Good to see you. You had some great questions last time. Marlou, my other mom, welcome as well. Hey, Jenna, you haven't met my mom yet. She was here last time. It's pretty cool. One day, maybe you can get your parents on here too. My goal is complete in life. I'm really excited to talk about session 4 today. So we're going to go ahead and jump in. Working, listening to what I can. Gotcha. We're going to go ahead and jump in. Thanks for taking the time, by the way, on a Thursday to talk about God, the universe, infinity, and the law of one. So excited to do this again with all of you. We're going to jump into our, we're going to jump into our document here. And if you are new or returning and forgot what we're doing here, well, what we're going to do is we're going to go through this document that Jaslyn and I put together, my wife, my Schnooky Wookie, my sweet Jazzy, Jaslyn. She and I put all of the raw contact in this sheet. And what we're doing is reading it together with some passages, quotes, opinions, perspectives of our own, and the following books: a concept guide, which is here, the Wanderer's Handbook, Voices of the Confederation, Living the Law of One, and the study guide, or I think it's called the resource guide. So we're using all these different tools as well as channelings from other Confederation sources, which we will talk more about as we go through the raw contact. So today, what we're going to do is go through session 4 together. But before I do, I want to remind you something that you could have. Let's read through this together. In this document, Hello, Seeker of Truth. In this document, you will find the raw contact teaching the law of one. You will also find comments of ours along with quotes from passages of other Confederation sources, thanks to L&L Research and many others, including but not limited to A Concept Guide, A Living the Law of One, A Wanderer's Handbook, Voices of the Confederation, and the Law of One Study Guide. We do not wish to distort Ra's message, but rather we strive to clarify and magnify certain topics throughout the Ra contact that we once misunderstood by using support material that is of Confederation sources. The truth is already within you. No book, person, or entity can tell you what is true for you. Only you can find that truth. So please use your own discernment. As the Confederation says, please take what resonates and leave the rest behind. We love this book so much, and even if only one remembers or awakens, then this was a success. The few whom you will illuminate by sharing your light are far more than enough reason for the greatest possible effort. To serve one is to serve all. Ra. Bless you on your journey of seeking. Oh, and I love you. Thank you for reading or hearing this. You. By the way, my name is Yusuf Varzita. I am you, you are me, we are one. So you can call me you. That is my nickname. Call me you. Let's do the circle of one and then we will dive in. What is the law? The law is one. Why are we here? We seek the law of one. Why do we seek Ra? Ra is a humble messenger of the law of one. Rejoice then and purify this place in the law of one. Let no thought form enter the circle. We have walked about this instrument, for the law is one. All right, you ready to get into session 4? Yes. Jenna, have you still been listening? We haven't seen you in a bit. Have you been listening still or reading still? Still somewhat? Yes?
Yeah, I'm still listening. I missed the last calls because I was at work, but I'm off
well,
today,
congrats.
so I'm here.
Congrats on having a job. Yes. All right. Yes, you are here. So let's really quickly summarize what we read in session 1 through 3. So Ra started channeling through Carla, correct? And it was a very narrow band communication due to their high intelligence being a 6th density social memory complex. They talked about how they're a part of the Confederation of Planets in service to the one infinite creator. They spoke of unity and the one original thought. They spoke about what the members of the Confederation do, where they're from. They said they're of the law of one, meaning 6th density. They talked about how they once came and visited the Egyptians and built the pyramids. They also taught the law of one. And the message of the law of one was greatly distorted by the elite of the time. And the use of the pyramids was used by the royal elite and was, for that reason, distorting the purpose of the pyramids. So Ra left. They believed that they were being naive and thinking that they could just walk among us as normal brothers and sisters, which that was their intention, was to come as brothers and sisters. But they were seen as gods, so they decided to leave. And they waited for a long time to now visit this group that we have here. And the purpose of their visiting is to teach the law of one. And the law of one states that all things are one. They are here to share the message of unity, oneness, love, light, love, that of the one infinite creator. And so what we're going through today is we're going to do session 4, which is continuing the conversation about the pyramids, their purpose, and also initiation. So we're going to go ahead and begin. And my lovely wife, she has such an angelic voice, and she is the feminine part of this. So she's going to be reading one section after me. So I'll read a session, and then she'll read a session. Are you ready to begin, my love?
Yes.
Yes. All right. So I'll do the first session, the first 4.1, and then you'll do 4.2. Okay.
Gotcha.
All right. Session 4, Ra. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and the light of the infinite creator. I communicate now. Questioner. Finishing the last session, I had asked the question that was too long to answer. It had to do with the shape of the pyramid and its relationship to the initiation. Is this an appropriate time to ask this question? Ra. I am Ra. Yes, this is an appropriate time space to ask this question. Whenever you see time space, he's really referring to the passage of clock and calendar time as we know it. But generally, time, space, and space-time have different meanings, and we'll talk about that as time goes on, okay? Just so you know, space-time is the visible. That's what we're in right now. So you can think of that as time, right? That's the physical part of which we are incarnate, the visible. The time-space is the invisible or metaphysical part, the one that we do not see. Okay, 4.2.
Does the shape of the pyramid have effect upon the initiation? I am Ra. As we began the last session question, you have already recorded in your individual memory complex the first use of the shape having to do with the body complex initiation. We talked about the sensory deprivation tanks there, and we talked about healing. The initiation of spirit was a more carefully designed type of initiation as regards the time-space ratio about which is the entity to be initiated found itself. If you will picture with me the side of the so-called pyramid shape and mentally imagine this triangle cut into the 4 equal triangles, you will find the intersection of the triangle, which is at the first level on each of the 4 side forms a diamond in a plane which is horizontal. The middle of this plane is the appropriate place for the intersection of the energies streaming from the infinite dimensions and the mind-body-spirit complexes of various interwoven energy fields. All right, what did we just say? Thank you to ChatGPT. Imagine cutting the pyramid side into 4 equal triangles, because the Great Pyramid of Giza, as an example, has 4 triangle sides. Where these triangles meet in the middle forms a diamond shape. Yusuf and I were actually watching a YouTube video that was saying how the white limestone that was the Great Pyramid of Giza ended up looking like a diamond when you looked at it, when the sun hit it. This diamond is the key spot where energy from the infinite dimensions meets the person's energy fields. The design was meant to help the person being initiated to mentally connect with this energy gateway, allowing them to access higher intelligence. So the center of where those 4 points meet, which was also called the capstone in the Great Pyramid of Giza as a form of the pyramid that they're sharing. But the idea is that any pyramid shape could have this if it has 4 equal sides and it has a capstone. That's where the energy connects. If you've ever had a crystal in the shape of one of the pyramids, what people do is they tend to put one near the front of the houses, and they will touch the top of the capstone, the very top of the pyramid, while entering or leaving the house, as an easy way to purify or connect to that crystal energy. It's a beautiful form to connect. Thus, it was designed that the one to be initiated would, by mind, be able to perceive and then channel this, shall we say, gateway to intelligent infinity, to the creator. This then was the second point of designing this specific shape. So this simplified version. Thus, it was designed that the initiated would, by mind, be able to perceive and channel this gateway to intelligent infinity. So they are able to channel the creator. That was the second reason why they created the pyramid.
Yes, and if you don't know what the intelligent infinity means, according to a concept guide, the gateway to intelligent infinity is the indigo ray energy center, or your third eye. When functioning as a gateway, is used to contact and tap intelligent infinity. And intelligent infinity is the creator's eternal essence. You can think of that as the creator's eternal essence. In order to bring intelligent energy is, you know how there's an invisible eternal essence that permeates all things, that is intelligent infinity. Intelligent energy is the actual manifestation of that infinity. It's what we can see and what we can touch, taste, and what is unseen as well. That energy is intelligent energy. So you can think the source and the source of that energy is intelligent infinity into intelligent energy. Ra also calls this the gateway to the creator. So you can think of intelligent infinity as the creator. All right, let's continue to, you want to finish this piece?
Yeah. May we provide a further description of any kind to your query? 4.3. My love.
Questioner. As I understood it then, the initiate was to be on the center line of the pyramid, but at an altitude above the base as defined by the intersection of the 4 triangles made by dividing each side into 4 triangles. Is that correct? So let's go ahead and pull up a picture of a pyramid, the Pyramid of Giza intersection. I typed this in recently, so hopefully everyone can see my screen, right? Can you see my screen? Yeah.
Yes.
So the intersection, I took it as the person that's standing in here, there's 4 pyramid, like there's, if you cut this thing into 1, 2, 3, 4 pyramids, there is a point, what is it, 4 intersecting pyramids? 4 triangles, yeah, made by dividing each side into 4 triangles. So if we can imagine 4 triangles here, there is going to be one point here. The center line of that point is what I believe they're referring to here. So right in the middle, the center line of that middle triangle is here. That's what I'm getting from it. And that's like
You
the
can go
perfect.
back to the pyramid pictures. I have another, how I'm seeing it.
Oh, here?
If you can go back to the pyramid
yeah.
pictures.
Let's you actually put a picture here, a link here, Jazzy. So if we put 1,
No,
2.
wait, hold on. Can you go to like the actual pyramid on the outside of what it looks like?
The outside.
How many sides does the pyramid have?
4.
Exactly. So the pyramid has 4 sides, which are the 4 triangles. If you look at them from either side, so the center of where the 4 triangles meet is the tippy top of the pyramid. That was my understanding of it.
Oh, I see. Okay. That makes sense.
I'm glad we had that conversation.
Ra. This is correct.
4.4. Then at this point, there is a focusing of energy that is extra dimensional in respect to our dimensions. Am I correct? Ra. You may use that vibratory sound complex. Whenever you see vibratory sound complex, what they mean is word. You may use that word. They'll say it a lot. However, it is not totally and specifically correct as there are no extra dimensions. We would prefer the use of the term multi-dimensions. So instead of saying extra dimensions, multi-dimensions. Easy peasy. 4.5.
Questioner. Is the size of the pyramid a function in effectiveness of the initiate? Ra. I am Ra. Each size pyramid has its own point of streaming in of intelligent infinity. Thus, a tiny pyramid that can be placed below a body or above a body will have specific and various effects depending upon the placement of the body in relationship to the entrance point of intelligent infinity. Simplified. Each size pyramid has its own point of streaming in of the creator's essence. Thus, a tiny pyramid that can be placed below or above a body will have certain effects depending upon the placement of the body in relationship to the entrance point of the creator's essence. Continued. For the purposes of initiation, the size needed to be large enough to create the expression of towering size so that the entrance point of multi-dimensional intelligent infinity would completely pervade and fill the channel, the entire body being able to rest in this focused area. Furthermore, it was necessary for healing purposes that both channel and the one to be healed be able to rest within that focus point. So here's my theory on this. They needed a pyramid in size big enough to fill the entire chamber so that the channel or initiate could be engulfed in the creator's essence, love light, light love, intelligent infinity of the creator, and thus be healed. So what I picture essentially inside that pyramid is someone completely submerged. I'm just picturing a float tank in the middle of this pyramid, and they're just floating in a bunch of, because they did find, I think they found high levels of magnesium in it, and which indicates the presence of Epsom salt or some kind of salt. And that is used in float tanks, but that could just be speculation. But I do picture a being being completely submerged in this little section of the pyramid. But they needed a pyramid big enough that it could bring enough light into the structure to completely engulf the being in the creator's light and thus be healed. If it was a smaller pyramid, I don't think it would be able to engulf the initiate or the person being healed enough to create a healing work. But that's just my theory. I think we're going to get closer to that soon. 4.6?
Yeah. Well, really quickly, a quick point. While Yusuf and I were watching, again, we've been talking about how they pretty much were creating a sensory deprivation tank. They were getting rid of all 5 senses so that we can kind of eliminate the body to be able to connect spiritually to a certain point and to raise our vibration. So a sensory deprivation tank is also called a float tank. And these exist now in the universe, in the world, on Earth. And in the pyramids, supposedly people think the pyramids were made to have a tomb. For tomb purposes, they had coffins to hide bodies. But what if those tombs weren't for the afterlife, but were for this life? What if the tombs found in pyramids, just like this, thank you, honey. What if this is where the float tank was, the sensory deprivation tank back in the day? What if this is where people would be, and then someone would open up the casket, and then you would exit outside of the sensory deprivation tank and continue on with your day?
Yeah, that's my theory. What she's referring
That's
to
our
is
theory.
the tomb, or what was called the coffer, which was inside the main chamber of the Pyramid of Giza. So where would this coffer be located? It's
It's
in this.
something that we haven't searched. I believe there's more than one, though, correct?
I think it's here and here. Yeah, I think
The
it's,
granite coffer.
or if it's all the way up here. I don't understand how. When we go, it's gonna make more sense. By the way, everyone, we're going in October of this year.
Yeah.
After
Wendy too.
going to the Law of One meetup, the Law of One gathering in Berlin, Germany, Jasmine and I want to visit Ra's creation. We just felt like it would be a great time to go. So if you are interested in going around that time, we haven't made any definite plans yet. I know there is Wendy, one of the Wendy's is going this year in October. So you are going as well. We might end up being there at the same time. Okay. I guess we can continue.
Okay.
Anything else to
4.6.
share?
That's good. Thank you.
Yeah.
4.6. Is the large pyramid at Giza still usable for this purpose, or is it no longer functioning? I am Ra. That, like many other pyramid structures, is like the piano out of tune. It, as this instrument would express, plays the tune, but oh so poorly. The disharmony jangles the sensitive. Only the ghost of the streaming still remains due to the shifting of the streaming points, which is, in turn, due to the shifting electromagnetic field of your planet. Due also to the discordant vibratory complexes of those who have used the initiatory and healing place for less compassionate purposes. All right, Raw, thank you so much for the big words. Luckily, we've simplified it. Only the leftovers remain due to the shifting electromagnetic field of your planet. So no, the pyramid of Giza can't be used for the exact same purpose that Ra created it at this point, because it's kind of like an instrument that's out of tune. If you've ever played a guitar before you tune it, if you've ever watched a guitarist, they have to tune the guitar before they play it, or the song just doesn't sound the same. It's out of tune. Or as you know, on a in a car or in a radio station, if it's like 100.7, but you have it at 100.5, you'll hear it but slightly distorted. You won't, or if you get to 100.4, all of a sudden it's a whole other channel. So this is what they're saying. The pyramid is out of tune, and the shifting electromagnetic field of your planet. Um, I, my theory, the shifting is most likely referring to precision. R. Go ahead, honey. This is your theory.
So this shifting is most likely what they're referring to here. So only the ghost of the streaming, so like the past of the streaming still remains due to the shifting of the streaming points, which in turn due to the shifting electromagnetic field of your planet. I believe what they're referring to, this shifting that they're talking about, is the precession. If you ever hear the term precession of the equinoxes, that is this theory. You can imagine the Earth, right? It's not perfectly tilting, it's moving at an angle. So this is what it would look like. Precession is a change in the orientation of the rotational axis of a rotating body. So that over time can cause a shifting and a changing. So at one point, the pyramid was at a perfect point for the in streaming to come in of intelligent infinity. It was at the perfect point for that time. And now because of the rotation of the planet, it is out of tune, if you will. Explanation. In astronomy, axial precession is a gravity-induced slow and continuous change in the orientation of an astronomical body's rotational axis. So yes, slow and continuous change over the course of thousands of years can at some point cause shifts in positionings between a structure on Earth and the point in space that it was contacting. And what they were saying here is that, to continue this, due also to the discordant vibratory complexes of those who have used the initiatory and healing place for less compassionate purposes. So also, of course, the shifting of the equinox of the precession can cause it to go out of tune. And also because there's a lot of the elite using it for purposes that were not what they intended, and they meaning Ra. So my theory is that the elite used the pyramid eventually to gain abilities that they then use to control, manipulate, or enslave the non-elite.
We'll definitely go through that in future sessions about the elite and non-elite, like who are they? What is their purpose? We'll get to that. What I will also add about the shifting of the streaming points and the shifting of the electromagnetic field of your planet. You see, we watched we were going deep into pyramid documentaries because we wanted to have information and also find more truth in what Ra is talking about with what's been scientifically found in the spiritual community. And another thing we found is that the pyramid was true north, is what they said. It's about 3 degrees off. So let's take control back. Caramel bites. Yeah. I love it,
1/20th.
Christina.
1/20th off. 1/20th of a degree.
1/20th of a degree off from true north. So the pyramid is connected to northeast, south, and west, from my understanding. So if you were to look at a compass, it just matches perfectly to point to where the north axis would be. So that axis, which Yusuf just showed you, the precision is slightly changes all the time, and it's been quite some time since the pyramid has been made. So that could also be because of the shifting.
Yeah. What I think true north or true north means. I'm not sure if this is fact, but I think true north is this point at the top here. That point there is true north. That's what I think. I'm not sure if that is true north. So we looked up what true north meant. So true north versus magnetic north. True north. So one is, what is true north? True north, magnetic north. True north is also called the geographical north. True north is a direction that leads directly to the North Pole. This is a fixed location on the globe of Earth. So I was wrong. The Earth spins around its geographic north and south poles. The lines of longitude meridians converge at the North Hemisphere's geographic north and south poles. Okay. Okay. It's situated within the Arctic Ocean. So
Yeah, it's not the North Pole as in where Santa is, but the North Pole, which is the top of the axis. So are you wrong? I think you're right. Anybody else have comments?
yeah, I think that makes sense.
Anybody else know any more than we do here? We're student teachers here.
Yeah, we haven't done a lot of research in what true north is or how that works with the pyramid, but that's going to be our next thing. After
Can
watching
I
the
ask
documentaries we
oh,
did, I
sorry.
think it's incredible.
Yeah, go ahead, Jenna.
Okay, so I'm wondering, so when you mentioned, okay, sorry, now I kind of just blanked. Is it it's not the pyramids that are out of tune, it's the mind, body, spirit complex that's out of tune with the pyramid?
It's the point at which the pyramid is located on the Earth because of the shifting of the Earth over the course of thousands of years. So that position plus us. Does that answer your question?
Okay, so it's both of them at the same time?
Yes.
Okay, so if that's the case and infinite intelligence has access to the past, present, future simultaneously all the time, what's the significance of it being out of tune?
What's the significance of it being out of tune? Like when you say significance, what do you mean by significance? What is the meaning of it being out of tune?
Like, why is it important, or that it's why is it out of tune then?
So it's out of tune because of just like it says here, the discordant vibratory complexes of those who have used the initiatory and healing place for less compassionate purposes. So you can imagine, I don't know what they did inside of this pyramid. You imagine if this being of light comes down to bring love and light to the earth, and then I don't know, the royal elite start using it as a way to gain powers and start, I don't know, raping women and taking over the world. That might cause some discourse, right? Some discord. So that's what they're saying here. Also, because of the positioning of it on the earth rotates, and now it's just not at the same perfect point that it was before.
Okay.
Your question.
Yeah, unfortunately, us humans are not perfect. We have our distortions, and those who are subject to power and the desire for power, well, sometimes I don't know, they get things out of hand. They get out of hand. I don't know why. But it causes problems, and we don't think it makes sense, or we don't see the impact it has metaphysically, those actions, but every single action has a consequence and an equal and opposite reaction somewhere. So I don't know what they did in those pyramids, but it must have been pretty messed up. Yes, Darcy.
Hey,
Hey.
good morning.
Okay. Hello. Grand Rising.
Can you guys see me? Do I
Yes.
have my video on? Okay.
Yes.
I guess my question is, or to connect on to Jenna's question, or to finish that is, for me, if we were not distorted in our view, like if Ra had come down and we had been able to assimilate all of the information they were bringing to us in a non-distorted way, would the earth moving with the pyramids have been able to shift correctly? Does that make sense? Like, so I get the part that we, the pharaohs and the things that were in charge at the time, you know, might have misused the power of it, but was the distortion that we have with the earth access of the pyramids, would that have stayed in congruency? I don't know if I'm explaining this right. If we had stayed undistorted, does that make sense? Oh, I can't hear you. Sorry, I don't know what.
We can't hear you, honey. We can't hear your words right now. I don't know what's going on.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, Darcy. Hold on. Something's going on with UC's mic. Maybe come back.
Can you hear me now?
There you go. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it changed microphones on me randomly. It's so weird. So can you repeat your question?
I'll try. So to add on to what Jenna was asking about the distortion from our personal perspective and monetary movements causing.
Oh, I think I remember. Okay, so if we were not messing with the pyramid and doing all sorts of crazy stuff inside the pyramid, we didn't cause any discordant vibrations, and the earth was still moving, would we still be able to use the pyramids? You're asking. Is that what you're asking?
Correct. Yeah, I guess so. Like, would they be magic? Yeah, I guess, would they like magically align because, you know, they were made thoughts? Would the thought then continue to align the pyramids?
Well, I think all of it had a big, this is only my interpretation, aka distortion, but I think all of it played a part in the perfect use of the pyramid. Now, what was incredible is that this pyramid was covered in this beautiful crystal back in the day. And that beautiful crystal, it was like a diamond in the desert. They said it would shine so bright that you could see it from Israel during the day when the sun was shining on it. Could you imagine being able to see from Egypt to Israel? I mean, how many thousands of miles? I have a point to this, which I'll get to, but let's just, for shoots and ladders here, how many miles is it from Egypt, Cairo, Egypt to Israel? Just so we have an idea. 250 miles away, you could see this thing. They say you can possibly even see it from the moon. Back in the day, that sheet that was on the pyramid is no longer there. So whether the shifting of the earth changed the qualities, whether the erosion from the outer layer slowly dissipates, I think all of that played into the perfect use of these pyramids. All of it was designed in a way to work synergistically together. So they were really smart in creating this thing. It still lasts to this day, but we're going to get into, I think we're going to touch this next, exactly why the pyramids are no longer necessary. But I hope that answered your question. I think all of these play a part, but that's just my opinion. We don't know unless we had another pyramid. I think it's super fascinating when you picture this perfect diamond, as massive as it is. If you could just visualize a diamond just hanging out in the desert, reflecting light off of it, it's freaking mind-blowing to ponder. But hey, maybe one day we can all go back in time and watch this thing get created by thought. One of the most epic things to think about. Okay, did that answer your question? Yes? Cool.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
In my distortion, I also believe that it would have moved anyways. It would have been out of tune 3 times anyways, unless we found a way to tune it. I wish he asked that question.
Yeah. Okay, I think the next section is that me?
That's me.
Okay.
4.7. Would it be possible to build a pyramid and properly align it and use it today with materials we have available? I am wrong. It is quite possible for you to build a pyramid structure. The material used is not critical, merely the ratios of time-space complexes. However, the use of the structure for initiation and healing depends completely upon the inner disciplines of the channels attempting such work. In other words, yes, it is possible to build a pyramid structure, and the materials used is not important, merely the placement of the structure on the earth, where it's located compared to the axis, compared to other factors, and as well as, however, the use of the structure for purification and healing depends completely upon the discipline of the channel attempting such work. So it depends on the person who is connecting to this pyramid structure.
Ooh, that just answered Darcy's question. So the material used is not critical. So the material is not important, but really the placement on the earth. Because like ratios of time-space complexes, that's like the placement on the earth. However, the use of the structure for initiation and healing depends completely upon the inner disciplines of the channels attempting such work. So to answer your question, Darcy, today, if you were to use the pyramid, it wouldn't work because of two factors, the placement on the earth and the discipline of the one to be healed, us. Oh, she says she can't hear, not hearing. What is a good example of placement? Okay, so I know Juliana. I love
just
your
got
question.
here.
Yeah, welcome, Juliana. So when it comes to placement, this is more of we're thinking more about like the placement of the Pyramid of Giza. So I couldn't tell you like a small pyramid. We have thought about buying a small pyramid to then use it underneath like a pillow or something. I've seen a few articles in LNL Research's website. You can go in that website and type in pyramid and size, and you're going to get some information on that. But we're more referring now to using the Pyramid of Giza, for example, not like a small pyramid to put underneath you. But we have considered that.
I'm curious because they're mentioning to build a pyramid structure. That makes me think it's more of like a home or like a shelter. So I'm thinking about like, red tents and other types of pyramid-like structures that we could put because the material again does not matter, but what the channel is used for, what the pyramid structure is used for, what the tent is used for, as an example, or the triangle wooden shelter can be used for. And I'm curious if it's possible to move it, kind of like what they're saying with the axis point, and maybe we can connect it to the true north, northeast, south, and west. At the end of the day, connect it to like where the pyramid is looking, and then hoping we can get it to do its thing. I'm definitely going to mention this to Claudia so that all future red tents are connected to True North.
So when I think of a pyramid, I think of a perfect conductor of light. So we can definitely say that light exists. We do see light, and the light from the sun comes down every single day. And if you can imagine this pyramid being super shiny, like a brilliant crystal, just radiating light, you can imagine the sun beaming down on it, and then this light, this thing just like illuminating this glowing, brilliant light. I just feel like that's the perfect structure to generate power or electricity or light, energy. So it just makes sense to use a pyramid for this type of process, meaning in this case is healing, initiation and healing. All right, we're going to get into exactly what healing is very soon, so don't worry, we're going to cover this next. 4.8. Questioner. My question then would be, are there individuals incarnate upon the planet today who would have the necessary inner disciplines to, using your instructions, construct and initiate in a pyramid they built and then possibly do it again? Is this within limits of what anyone can do on the planet today, or is there no one available for this? Ra. I am Ra. There are people, as you call them, who are able to take this calling at this nexus. However, we wish to point out once again that the time of the pyramids, as you would call it, is past. It is indeed a timeless structure. However, the streamings from the universe were, at the time we attempted to aid this planet, those which required a certain understanding of purity. This understanding has, as the streamings revolve and all things evolved, changed to a more enlightened view of purity. Thus, there are those among your people at this time whose purity is already one with intelligent infinity. Without the use of structures, healer/patient can gain healing. All right, let's break this down simply. Anytime you see the word simplified here on the corner, this is me taking what Ross said, copying and pasting it here, and then replacing words like nexus with something that makes sense to me, like point in time. I'll look up the definition and or check some of the resources that we have, like a concept guide, which we shared with you earlier, A Wanderer's Handbook, Voice of the Confederation, Living the Law of One. The one I use the most is a concept guide. So I'll take that and I'll insert any points here or any definitions here to simplify things. So here we go. Simplified. I am Ra. There are people who are able to take this calling at this point in time. However, we wish to point out once again that the time of the pyramids is past. It is indeed a timeless structure. However, the streamings from the universe were, at the time required, a certain understanding of purity. This understanding has, as things evolve, changed to a more enlightened view of purity. Thus, there are those among your people at this time whose purity is already one with the one's eternal essence, or the creator's eternal essence. Thus, we no longer need pyramids to gain healing. By the way, this is great news. When I read this or heard this, I was like, oh, we're actually more enlightened. What Ra is saying, excuse me, is that there are those among your people at this time whose purity is already one with God, the one infinite creator, the universe, oneness. So we don't need pyramids to gain healing anymore. Congratulations. Tap yourselves on the back. If you're on this call, you're one of those people. I'm telling you. You're just remembering as time goes on more and more. May we further speak to some specific points. By the way, if you see healer patient, so healer patient means patient, okay? So without the use of structures, patients can gain healing. May we further speak to some specific points.
4.9. Is it possible for you to instruct healing techniques if we could make available these individuals that have the native ability? Just a heads up, for the next 4.9 through 6.1, it's all about how to be an effective healer. Oh my God, I've been going crazy for this for the last week, so I'm so excited. I am wrong. It is possible. We must add that many systems of teach learning the healing patient nexus are proper given various mind body spirit complexes. We ask for imagination to consider the relative simplicity of the mind in the earlier cycle and the less distorted but often overly complex views and thought spirit processes of the same mind body spirit complexes after many incarnations. We also, okay, perfect. Simplified. In other words, Yusuf's beautiful new wording, I am Ra. It is possible. We must add that many systems of teaching the patient at any point in time are properly given to many individuals. Consider the relative simplicity of the mind in the earlier cycle and the thought spirit processes of the same individual after many incarnations. So they're talking about past lives here.
That's what I
Something
think
that
they're
way.
referring to. So somebody, let's break this down for a second. We must add that many systems of teaching the patient at any point in time are proper given many people, many humans, many individuals. Consider the relative simplicity of the mind in the earlier cycle, so a young being or someone who hasn't really had many incarnations, and the thought processes of the same individual after many, many lives. So someone who's gone through many incarnations is obviously going to be way better at healing, is what they're saying.
Mm. We also ask your imagination to conceive of those who have chosen the distortion of service and have removed their mind body spirit complexes from one dimension to another, thus bringing with them, in sometimes totally Latin form, many skills and understandings which more closely match the distortions of the healing patient processes. Simplified. We also ask you to imagine those who have chosen the service of others, I believe, right? The service and have removed their individual self from one dimension to another, bringing with them totally hidden or concealed form many skills and understanding which more closely match the change in the form of the healing processes. So, depending on their specific skills, understanding, if they've chosen service to others or service to self,
I'm not
then
sure
the
what you're
healing is
getting.
different.
I don't know where you're getting that, but let's break this down for a second. We also ask you to imagine those who have chosen this service, and have removed their individual self from one dimension to another. So they're reincarnating, bringing with them totally hidden or concealed skills and understandings which more closely match the change of the healing processes. So as time goes on, they start to incarnate with more and more skills. And even though these skills, because we have this veil, they don't come into this incarnation understanding fully what skills they have, but they possess these skills. They're totally hidden or concealed, and understanding, so knowledge that they have that closely match the distortion of healing patient processes. So that closely match healing. So my theory is that over time, in past lives, we might have been healers. And because of that, we're more apt, or we have an aptitude for healing based on previous incarnations of things, of skills that we may not even be aware that we have.
Wow, I'm so grateful for you. Thank you.
4.10. Questioner. I would very much like to continue investigation into the possibility of this healing process, but I'm a little lost as to where to begin. Can you tell me what my first step would be? Ra. I am Ra. I cannot tell you what to ask. I may suggest that you consider the somewhat complex information just given and thus discover several avenues of inquiry. There is one health, as you call it, in your polarized environment, but there are several significantly various distortions of types of mind-body-spirit complexes. Each type must pursue its own learned teaching in this area. So let's break this down. I cannot tell you what to ask. I may suggest that you consider the complex info just given and discover different questions to ask. There is one health in your reality, but there are several perspectives of individuals. Each perspective must pursue, each person with their perspective must pursue their own learning in this area. As you can see, I cannot tell you what to ask. I may suggest that you consider the complex information just given and discover several avenues of questioning. There is one health in your reality, but there are many different distortions of types of individual humans. Each type must pursue its own learning in this area.
4.11. I would assume that the first step would be to find an individual with ability brought with him into this incarnation. Is this correct? I am wrong. This is correct. I'll read 4.12 since it's so short. 4.12. Once I have selected an individual to perform healing, it would be helpful to receive instructions from you. Is that possible? I am wrong. This is possible given the distortions of vibratory sound complexes, given the different perceptions of words. All yours, honey.
4.13, questioner. I'm assuming then that the selected individual would necessarily be one who has very much who was very much in harmony with the law of one. Though he may not have any intellectual understanding of it, he should be living the law of one. Is this correct? Ra. I am Ra. This is both correct and incorrect. The first case, that being correctness, would apply to one such as the questioner itself, who has a distortion towards healing, as you call it. The incorrectness, which shall be observed, is the healing of those whose activities in your space-time illusion do not reflect the law of one, but whose ability has found its pathway to intelligent infinity, regardless of the plane of existence from which this distortion is found. So let's go ahead and simplify these. Let's simplify this one. I am Ra. This is both correct and incorrect. The first case would apply to Don Elkins, who is the questioner, who has the distortion towards healing. The incorrectness is the healing of those whose activities in your reality do not reflect the law of one, but whose ability has found its pathway to the infinite, regardless of the plane of existence it came from. So what he's saying here is like some people come in and they have this distortion towards healing, but they don't use it. And then there are those who you couldn't tell because their reality, their life doesn't really reflect unity and oneness, but they have the ability to.
But they're devoted to the creator.
Yes, have found it's a pathway to intelligent infinity, regardless of the plane of existence from which that distortion is found.
So no matter what religion or background they have, if they're devoted to the creator, they can still heal, even if their life does not reflect the law of one.
Mm-hmm.
Correct?
Yes.
4.14. Jen, did you understand? So Don is asking the scribe if he understood. I'm a little confused. I partially understood you. I'm not sure that I fully understood you. Could you restate that in another way? Ra, I can restate that in many ways, given this instrument's knowledge of your vibratory sound complexes. I will strive for a shorter distortion at this time. So given Carla's knowledge of different words, because she was a librarian and she absolutely loves books, they're able to try again with a different type of language.
Yes, just really quickly, Carla was always challenging Ra and Kuo and other Confederation entities, and they would always ask, like, what is your name? I'd like to know your name. And she would obsess over words. She just found lexicon and language very interesting. And since she was a librarian, she did a lot of research into words and the Latin root of words and that kind of thing. So I think part of Ra's plan in choosing an entity to channel was to find someone that had a larger vocabulary. So you're going to hear Ra refer to that throughout the material.
Kinds there are who can heal. Those, such as yourself, who have the innate distortion toward knowledge, giving of the law of one, can heal but do not. And those who, having the same knowledge but showing no significant distortion consciously towards the law of one in mind, body, or spirit, yet and nevertheless have opened a channel to the same ability. The point being that there are those who, without proper training, shall we say, nevertheless heal. So I know you have a simplified version. You want to move to that little? Yeah. Two kinds there are who can heal. Those such as yourself who, having the innate ability towards sharing the law of one, can heal but do not. And those who, having the same knowledge but showing no perception consciously towards the law of one, have the ability to heal. From my understanding, that means everyone has the ability to heal, for we are all pieces of the law of one.
Mhm.
And so they're just breaking it down into two ways: people that do understand the law of one and people that don't, which
Yep.
everyone fits in that
So
category.
whether you're consciously aware of the fact that there is the law of one or that there's unity and oneness, you can still heal. And maybe you are aware that there is the law of one and you have this ability to share the law of one and you have this desire to share the law of one, but you have no innate ability from previous incarnations, then you can still heal. So thank you, Ra, for sharing that. I love it.
Further item of interest that those whose life does not equal their work may find some difficulty in absorbing the energy of intelligent infinity and thus become quite distorted in such a way as to cause disharmony in themselves and others, and perhaps even find it necessary to cease the healing activity. Therefore, those of the first type, those who seek to serve and are willing to be trained in thought, word, and action, are those who will be able to comfortably maintain the distortion towards service in the area of healing. So while everyone can heal, okay, we'll do the simplified version. Those whose life does not equal their work may find some difficulty in absorbing the energy of the Creator's essence and thus cause disharmony, which is obviously not their goal. The goal of healing is to cause harmony in themselves and others, and find it necessary to cease healing. So the people that may by accident cause disharmony instead of harmony, they may feel like they need to stop healing in general, stop healing somebody else, stop healing themselves. Therefore, those of the first type, those who seek to serve and are willing to be trained, are those who will be able to comfortably maintain healing service.
Mhm.
I think that speaks for itself.
So when Ross says, when they say those whose life does not equal their work, I'm imagining someone that is healing and they're healing everyone, but they're not applying what they're healing to themselves. Like maybe they're like, could you imagine? I mean, I know Aaron Apke, right? I met the guy. He's living his work. So as he's going through and waking people up to oneness, essentially he's a healer. You imagine like I meet Aaron and he's just not living that at all. It's just like inauthenticity. So I'm thinking like he would be caught in a second and we would all see like, oh, you know, he's a fraud. But actually, Aaron is living his life's work. He's healing himself and he's focused on devotion, on God, infinity, oneness, sharing love and light with everyone else, sharing truth, knowledge, etc. And that is, I would say, the work of a healer. And so he's able to live his life's work. And because he's doing that, there's no disharmony. But on the converse of that, someone who lives a life where they're healing others, but they're not really living it, they may find some difficulty in absorbing the energy of God and thus cause disharmony in themselves and others and find it necessary to stop healing. Therefore, those are the first type. Those who seek to serve and are willing to be trained are those who are able to comfortably maintain the healing service. So in order to heal, you must be healed yourself. That's what I got from the last part. Or at least you don't have to, I think, to maintain the healing practice and service, you have to be applying the healing to yourself. .15 questioner. Then would it be possible for you to train us in healing practice? Ra. I am Ra. It is possible. 4.16 questioner. Will you train us? Ra. We will. Ra's like, we will. Sure. When you have these short, punchy lines from a 6th density social memory complex, I just love how precise it is. We will. 4.17 questioner. I have no idea of how long this would take or if you can even tell anything about that. Is it possible for you to give me a synopsis of the program of training required? I have no knowledge of what questions to ask at this point. I'll ask that question in the hopes that it makes sense. Ra. I am Ra. We consider your request for information, for as you noted, there are a significant number of vibratory sound complexes which can be used in sequence to train the healer. So let's break it down and simplify it. There are a lot of words which can be used in sequence to train the healer. The synopsis is a very appropriate entry that you might understand what is involved. Firstly, the mind must be known to itself. This is perhaps the most demanding part of healing work. If the mind knows itself, then the most important aspect of healing has occurred, for consciousness is the microcosm of the law of one. All right. Firstly, the mind must be known to itself. This is the most demanding part of healing. If the mind knows itself, then the most important part of healing has occurred, which consciousness, the subjective feeling of being, is the miniature version of the universe. So consciousness is the microcosm of the law of one. This is, we got to break this down for a second. This is incredible to read. Firstly, the mind must be known to itself. So we must know our own mind. This is perhaps the most demanding part of healing work, the most demanding part of healing work. If the mind knows itself, then the most important part of healing has occurred. So Ra is telling us we must know our own mind. I think, Jazzy, you wrote something here, right? Part of the work of the mind knowing itself is a process of discovering the completeness within the mind. For it, as Ra says, contains all things. By discovering, accepting, and balancing the polarities within the self, discovering the completeness within the self, discovering, accepting, and balancing the understanding of completeness in other selves.
Query in session 5, next session on July 4th. What a great day. We're going to go so much deeper into the mind, body, and spirit ways of healing. So this is, again, we're just at the synopsis. They're going to go so deep. I love it so much.
All right, continued. The second part has to do with the disciplines of the body complexes. In the streamings reaching your planet at this time, these understandings and disciplines have to do with the balance between love and wisdom in the use of the body and its natural functions. Simplified. The second part has to do with the disciplines of the body. In the data reaching your planet, these understandings and disciplines have to do with the balance between love and wisdom in the use of the body and its natural functions. According to a concept guide, this knowing of the body includes discovering, understanding, accepting, and balancing the polarities of the body, including how the feelings, biases, and emotions affect the self's body complex, and then extending this understanding to the bodies of other selves. All right, Jazz, so let me just back up for a second and talk about something. What I'm thinking about right now is I've gone through these healing parts throughout my life, because what I used to do as a very young kid, I remember at the age of 8, looking at the Twin Towers, like being hit by these planes and thinking like, man, that thing looks like it blew up. You know, I'm just like questioning things, and people are like, are you crazy? Those are terrorists. And I'm like, I don't know. And I would question things, and I would contemplate, I would reflect. And then what became a tradition for me was to go every night near my house. There's a lake. I would just go to the lake and I would just stare at the moon, and I would just meditate, contemplate, reflect, and I would just think, and I would get to know myself. And I'd ask all these big questions about God, infinity. I'm like, who am I? What's my purpose here? Is there a God? Like, who are you? And I would look at this moon, and I'm just thinking, wow, it's so beautiful and brilliant. And I would see the sun every day. And I realized that I was starting to really understand myself throughout the first 20 years of my life. Yeah, really learning my mind, understanding, like, what are my beliefs? First of all, do I believe in God? Am I Republican, Democrat, Independent? Like, what's that? Am I like, I know that I don't know that there's a God, but what's my religion if I was going to believe in a God? And I would think about all these things. And I would also eventually start working out. I started working out, and I started really caring for my body. And I realized, wow, the way I ate affected how I felt and my emotions. And I started to look deeper at my feelings, the things that were coming in throughout the day. I would feel sometimes depressed or angry, and I would just contemplate those things. And I would start to notice my attraction, like who I was attracted to, what kind of friends I was repelled from, and all these things that a human goes through. Like, first the mind, and then it's the body, And now that I'm 30, after I think 28 is really when it started, I started to really get into spirituality and spirit. And now this is what I'm working on now. So I just think it's interesting. Most of you, if you could relate to that story, you've already gone through these initiation processes throughout your childhood. You've been questioning things. You've been, really pondering your thoughts. You've probably had the thought like, who's thinking right now? This is so weird. Hey, you, the one who's narrating my life, who are you? In the head, there's like a voice or like thoughts, and I'm always questioning those. You've probably done it too. You probably also checked in with your emotions and your body and the feelings that you have and the biases and the emotions, and extending that understanding to other people. So part of that process for me was like, okay, I understand me now. In order to really like understand myself, I started asking other people about their feelings, their biases, their emotions, their perceptions, their beliefs, things like that. And that's what they're talking about here. So many of you, if you can relate to that, you've already been going through initiation, it looks like. The third area continued. Sorry for my rants, but I thought it was important to share. The third area is the spiritual. And in this area, the first two disciplines are connected through the attainment of contact with intelligent infinity. So if you look up what intelligent infinity means, what I got from it was the creator's essence. And the gateway to intelligent infinity is the third eye. So the third eye, the indigo, pineal gland, energy center, the one that moves that, according to Ra, we're going to learn this later, but it's faith. So when we have faith, we can contact God, essentially, because what they're saying here, the third area is the spiritual. And in this area, the first two disciplines are connected through the attainment of faith, is what I heard, through faith. Because you can't believe in, or you can't contact something you don't believe in. Like, how could you contact the creator's eternal essence or intelligent infinity if you don't have faith or believe that a creator exists? So when you read like intelligent infinity, what I always think of is faith in the creator's essence, because you cannot see it. And in order to feel this essence, you must have a faith that there is something bigger out there, essentially. This is what I'm getting from it. All right, rant over. 4.18.
Well, I have some comments for 4.17.
Yes.
Have you read session 5, honey, recently or no?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Today, yes.
Oh, okay, cool, rock on. So some of the other factors are going to be talked about, but thinking of the ascension spiral that we continue to see, there's all kinds of different blockages within the mind, body, and spirit. And we've definitely, the people here especially, have most likely, if not all of us, have worked on mind, body, and spirit. And we're at the point that we are now reconnecting the spirit, the attainment of contact with the creator's essence, and connecting it back to the mind and to the body, so that instead of just thinking of the mind as in like, who am I, from the place of ego, from the place of identity, but from the place of we are all one, now who am I? Connecting it to the creator. And then same thing with the body. Okay, well, these are the natural functions of the body, but how can I connect it to the spiritual? How can this be part of my spiritual journey? How is what my body is feeling connected to the fact that we are all one? And how does it relate to not just myself, but to others in this new way of viewing the law of one, as an example? So we're going to get to a lot of that, but if you like step one, just to like give you a hint of what's coming up in session 5, step one of mind mastery, of knowing your mind, is inner silence. You want to know how deep you are in mind mastery? Can you completely empty your mind, not have a single thought come up, and just be in full silence for a whole day? Can you imagine? I don't know. I'm not there. I don't know if you are, but I'm
That
not
really
there.
awesome. Like really, no thought.
I don't know. I
I
don't know,
think I don't
but
know if it's like
they
have
say
no
to
thought.
be able to silence the mind whenever, to be able to say, this thought means nothing to me anymore, and it just drops.
Mm,
And we're gonna get there. But
yeah.
just to give you an idea of like what step one of what they're talking about. Okay, now I'm ready for 4.18, thanks. And I'd love to share. 4.18. I believe I have some idea of the accomplishment, a little idea anyway, of the accomplishment of the first step. Can you elaborate the steps? The other two steps I am not at all familiar with. I am wrong. Imagine the body. Imagine the more dense aspects of the body. Proceed therefrom to the very finest knowledge of energy pathways which revolve and cause the body to be energized. Understand that all natural functions of the body have all aspects from dense to fine and can be transmuted to what you may call sacramental. This is a brief investigation of the second area. So simplified. Yeah, so I broke this down quite a few times. We'll do the simplified version first. Imagine the more dense parts of the body, then to the smallest of pathways, which give the body energy. So we're talking the energy, the chakras, we're talking about meridians, and we're talking about nadis. Understand that all natural functions of the body have all parts from dense to fine and can change in form, nature, or substance to mysterious and sacred. So I created my own little thing. Can you go to mine really quickly? Yeah, start. So what they're saying in my distortion is that they're saying to learn about the energy centers, the seven chakras, the meridians, and the nadis, and these pathways are what keep the body energized. So I started putting down a little bit of information about the meridians and nadis in here. So meridians come from the Chinese medicine, and supposedly a lot of this stuff is channeled from other sources. Like, where do they get the knowledge of meridians? Either they went really deep into inner stillness and meditation and learned from it from their higher self, and or they probably channeled this. So meridians comes from moving chi energy, if you've ever heard of that. So there's 12 primary meridians you can learn from. Ra normally talks about the 7 chakras, the 7 energy centers as the main baseline. And then the nadis are from the yogic traditions. So it's more Indian, Hinduism, and there's 72,000 nadis, but there's 3 main ones, which is the Ida, I'm probably saying these wrong, the Ida, Pingala, and Sushumna. So you can get into all of that, but pretty much those 3 main ones is the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system, or the 2 different snakes that correlate within the spine, which is the Ida and the Pingala, and then the Sushumna is where they meet, where those 2 snakes meet. So it's Kundalini energy at its finest. All right. There's also another one. If you click understand that all functions of the body in English. The next one in English. Recognize that all natural functions of the body, from the most physical to the most subtle, can be transformed into something sacred or holy. This is the second area of investigation, that everything that we feel, all of our emotions, all of our attractions and non-attractions, all have a sacred and holy form to them. And one of our jobs as part of this body complex is to be able to make it sacred, to have it be seen from a place of we are all one. So, for example, rapists are probably not making it holy, right? They're not connecting to that side. Sexual energy is a great one, and it's a sexual energy in Tantra, as an example, is moving chi energy or spiritual energy. So, depending on how you move your sexual energy, it could be from a place of pedophilia and rapist or anything else, and or it could be sacred in a certain way. Cool. So this is a brief investigation of the second area. To speak to the third, imagine, if you will, the function of the magnet. The magnet has 2 poles. One reaches up, the other goes down. The function of the spirit is to integrate the upreaching yearning of the mind-body energy with the downpouring instreaming of infinite intelligence. This is a brief explication of the third area. So I'm sure a lot of you have heard this before. Okay, simplified. We'll do simplified. Imagine the function of the magnet. The magnet has 2 poles. One reaches up and the other goes down. The function of the spirit is to integrate the reaching up of the mind body with the downpouring, instreaming of the creator's essence. So it's kind of talking about the seven energy centers. We have energy that's coming down from our seventh energy center from the creator into our body. And then from our first chakra, it's another gateway. The first and the seventh are gateways. And that gateway is coming from the planet, the natural energy of the planet. And it's meeting somewhere in the middle. And then it's playing with different blockages and distortion. No, you have a different view. Okay. What's your view, Yusuf?
Well, if we're just looking at what it says here. So imagine the function of the magnets. We are that magnet. The magnet has two poles. One reaches up, the other goes down. The function of the spirit is to integrate the reaching up of the body and the mind. The body and the mind are one because the mind controls the body, right? So the reaching up of the mind body, with the downstreaming of the creator's essence. So the creator is pouring through into the body, and our body / mind is reaching up. And so the spirit, this function of the spirit is to integrate that reaching up. So you can imagine, like you said, the energy centers, though. You mentioned the energy centers, right? There's energy centers, energy moving through us, but there's energy moving up, and the spirit is to integrate the energy that's coming from the creator, and then I guess integrating it into our mind, body, spirit complex.
Yeah, we were saying the same thing.
Okay.
Loved it.
Is this one? Okay. Right here, I think.
Is that connected? Okay, so simplified. I guess that's another second one. Visualize the spirit's function as integrating the mind, body, spirit's upward energy with the infinite intelligence's downward energy, much like the two poles of a magnet coming together. Perfect.
4.19. Then, would this training involve specific things to do, specific instructions and exercises? Ra, I am Ra. We are not at this time incarnate among your peoples. Thus, we can guide and attempt to specify, but cannot by example show. This is a handicap. However, there should indeed be fairly specific exercises of mind, body, and spirit during the teach-learning process we offer. Simplified. We are not incarnate among you right now, so we can guide and attempt to specify, but cannot show. This is a limitation. However, there should be specific exercises of mind, body, and spirit during the teaching process we offer. By the way, when you read this and they said we can guide and attempt to specify, but cannot by example show. So it cannot show, like this is a handicap. They literally cannot show up because of how it transpired in the previous attempt to just show up. So they cannot show up. And what they're saying is, since we can't show up, we can only guide and we can attempt to specify, but we just can't show you how this is done because we are not incarnate among you at this time. So this is as much as we can teach. This is as much teaching as we can offer. It is to be once again iterated that healing is but one distortion of the law of one. To reach an undistorted understanding of that law, it is not necessary to heal or indeed to show any manifestation, but only to exercise the disciplines of understanding. Now, this is a doozy for Jazin and I. I think we were chatting about this before we started. So let's go through it. Healing is but one part of the law of one. To reach a full comprehension of the law of one, it is not necessary to heal or to show any manifestation, but only to exercise the disciplines of understanding. So in English, this is Jazin's translation here. To fully grasp the law of one without any misconceptions, you don't need to heal or show any specific signs. Instead, you focus on practices that help you truly understand and internalize the principles of the undistorted comprehension of the law of one, such as devotion to love, compassion, self-reflection, meditation and contemplation, study and learning, mindfulness, self-awareness, stillness, and silence.
Those are some simplified versions to be able to internalize the principles given to understanding fully the law of one. At least that's in my distinction.
We would ask that 1 or 2 more questions be the ending of this session.
4.20. My objective is primarily to discover more of the law of one, and it would be very helpful to discover techniques of healing. I am aware of your problem with respect to free will. You cannot make suggestions. So I will ask you if you can state the law of one and the laws of healing to me. I am wrong. The law of one, though beyond the limitations of name, as you call vibratory sound complexes, may be approximated by stating that all things are one, that there is no polarity, no right or wrong, no disharmony, but only identity. All is one, and that one is love, light, light, love, the infinite creator. One of the primal distortions of the law of one is that of healing. Healing occurs when a mind body spirit complex realizes deep within itself the law of one. I'm going to repeat that in case you missed it. This is the most powerful sentence, in my opinion, of session 4. Healing occurs when a person realizes deep within itself the law of one. True healing, no matter what it is, it's like, oh yeah, we're all one. When you get that abiding awakening, you have healed. And that is that there is no disharmony, no imperfection, that all is complete and whole and perfect. Thus, the intelligent infinity within this mind body spirit complex reforms the illusion of body, mind, or spirit to a form congruent with the law of one. The healer acts as an energizer or catalyst for this completely individual process. One item which may be of interest is that a healer asking to learn must take the distortion understood as responsibility for that ask/receiving, thus healing. This is an honor duty which must be carefully considered in free will before the asking.
So let's go ahead and simplify this really quickly here.
Yes, go ahead, honey.
Simplified. The law of one, though beyond the limitations of name, may be stated that all things are one, that there is no polarity, no right or wrong, no disharmony, but only identity. All is one. And that one is love, light, light, love, the infinite creator. One of the fundamental distortions of the law of one is that of healing. Healing occurs when an individual realizes deep within itself the law of one. That is, that there is no disharmony, no imperfection, that all is complete and whole and perfect. Thus, the creator within this human makes changes to the form to a form more in agreement or harmonious with the law of one. The healer acts as energizer or person who precipitates an event for this completely individual process. Healing happens when a person deeply understands and feels that everything is connected, complete, and perfect. When they realize this, the infinite intelligence within them changes their perception of their body, mind, or spirit to align with this truth. The healer's role is to provide energy or support to help the person through this personal transformation. A healer asking to learn must take responsibility for healing. This is a duty which must be carefully considered before the asking. Okay, this is one of the most powerful passages in the law of one. First of all things are one. That there is no polarity, no right or wrong, no disharmony, but only identity. All is one, and that one is love, light, light, love, the infinite creator. And you're probably sitting there thinking, no disharmony? What are you talking about, bro? Like, how is that possible? There's no disharmony? Dude, there was a guy in the traffic light that cut me off yesterday. There's no wrong? Are you serious? There's no right? What are you talking about? There's no polarity. I see up. I'm down. I see light. I see black. I see darkness. but I don't understand what they're talking about here. But just contemplate it. We're not asking you to change your whole perception on reality right now, but this is just something to contemplate. All things are one, that there is no polarity, no right or wrong, no disharmony, but only identity. All is one. And that one is love, light, light, love, the infinite creator. And healing occurs when a mind, body, spirit complex realizes deep within itself the law of one. So healing essentially is metaphysical in nature. So you might think that healing is something that's physical, but we're going to read a concept guide really soon, right after this, right after we're done. We're going to read a passage from a concept guide on healing, and it's going to explain just exactly how healing takes place according to the law of one, that it's not physical in nature, it is metaphysical in nature. And just like they say, thus the creator within this human makes changes to the form, to the body, to a form more in agreement or harmonious with the law of one. So healing will take place when a person, a human, realizes deep within them that there is no disharmony, no imperfection, and that all is whole and complete and perfect. And thus, the God within us makes changes to our physical body to a form that's one more harmonious with unity, oneness in God, the infinite creator. And the healer simply acts as an energizer, or catalyst is a person who precipitates an event, person or thing that precipitates an event. So acts as an energizer or catalyst for this completely individual process. So basically, a healer is just someone that can just be there and hold space and act as sort of a pyramid structure, a crystal for someone else, a beacon of light for them, because it's really the one being healed, that's their own process. The healer is simply just being there to hold space and energize the person being healed. Woo! I don't know what to say here. It's clear to me, but if you don't understand fully, or you're still lacking comprehension here, just let us know if we can clarify anything. But I think we'll continue.
I assume that we should continue tomorrow. I am wrong. Your assumption is correct, unless you feel that a certain question is necessary. This instrument is best nurtured by approximately this length of time. 4.22. One short question. Is this instrument capable of 2 of these sessions per day, or should we remain with 1? I am wrong. This instrument is capable of 2 sessions a day. However, she must be encouraged to keep her bodily complex strong by the ingestion of your foodstuffs to an extent which exceeds this instrument's normal intake of your foodstuffs. This due to the physical material which we use to speak. Further, this instrument's activities must be monitored to prevent overactivity, for this activity is equivalent to a strenuous working on the physical level. If these admonitions are considered, the 2 sessions would be possible. We do not wish to deplete this instrument. So they're saying, yes, that 2 sessions per day are possible, but that Carla needs to eat more food stuff. So she needs to eat more certain foods that will help her heal. Eating food, which exceeds her normal intake of her normal amounts of food to her mouth. Okay. Carla's activities must be monitored to prevent overactivity. So keep watch. For this channeling session is equal to a hard workout to her body. If these wordings are considered, the 2 sessions would be possible. We do not wish to deplete her.
4.23. Questioner. Thank you, Ra. Ra. I am Ra. I leave you in the love and the light of the one infinite intelligence, which is the creator. Go forth, rejoicing in the power and the peace of the one, Adonai. I love the way Ra ends these sessions. By the way, there's something powerful shared here. The love and light of the one infinite intelligence, which is the creator. Infinite intelligence sounds like another way of saying intelligent infinity. If we switch these words and take this word and put that here, for example, one intelligence in infinite will have intelligent infinity, essentially, which is the creator. So every time you see intelligent infinity, you can think creator or unity. Whew. Okay, so since we talked a lot about healing, and I know we're going to get into more details about healing, what we're going to do is use a concept guide to share one of my favorite books, What It Says About Healing. So Healer. Ra describes the crystallized spiritual healer as channeling intelligent infinity into intelligent energy through the gateway, the indigo ray, and then through the radiation of green ray into manifestation. The intelligent energy itself is not the healer, offers an opportunity for realignment of energy centers or of some connection between the energies of mind, body, and spirit so that the one receiving healing may heal itself. All healing is of the self by the self. There is no other way that true healing transpires. All healing is of the self by the self. There is no other way that true healing transpires. The healer is only the energizer or catalyst for this working or activity. He or she cannot take credit because the healing is a function of the intelligent infinity within the entity to be healed. This intelligent infinity reforms the illusion of body, mind, or spirit to a form congruent with the law of one. Now remember this passage. To put it another way, healing is facilitated by the healer as a function of the healer's radiance of self. In this environment, the one to be healed recognizes or awakens the innate self-healing properties within the self. Or as Ra says, true healing is simply the radiance of the self, causing an environment in which a catalyst may occur, which initiates the recognition of self, by self, of the self-healing properties of the self. All healing is metaphysical at its core. This is what I was referring to earlier. Healing is done in the time-space portion. Time-space equals the non-physical portion of the mind-body-spirit complex, is adopted by the form-making or etheric body, and is then given to the space-time physical illusion for use in the activated yellow ray mind-body-spirit complex. It is the adoption of the configuration which you call health by the etheric body in time-space, which is the key to what you call health, not any event which occurs in space-time. Okay, that was a handful here. Healing is done in the non-physical portion and is adopted by the physical portion and is then given to the physical illusion portion to use in reality. It is the adoption of the configuration of what you call health by the physical body, or I'm sorry, non-physical body, which is the key to what you call health, not any event which occurs in space-time. So if you don't understand this, what they're saying here is health comes from the non-physical part. That's the key to health, not any event which occurs in the physical reality. In other words, healing is not physical. It's a spiritual game. I'm going to drop the mic and walk away. See ya. I'm just kidding. In this process, you may see the trans-dimensional aspect of what you call will, for it is the will, the seeking, the desire of the entity, which causes the indigo body to use the novel configuration and to reform the body, which exists in space-time. This is done in an instant and may be said to operate without regard to time. We may note that in the, yes?
Someone's asking for you to repeat that part that you're talking about health that's bolded. Can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah. It is the adoption of the configuration which you call health by the etheric body in time-space, which is the key to what you call health, not any event which occurs in space-time. So let's go ahead and let's go on our document here. And let's say that I made a comment somewhere, whatever. And let's just put this here. It is the adoption of the configuration, which you call health, by the non-physical. Let's say non-physical, which is the key to what you call health, not any event which occurs in physical reality. That's what Gary is saying here. Excuse me.
So health isn't something that happens in the physical world. Health only happens in the spiritual world. Correct? So no antibiotics or even herbal supplements. It's all placebos, is what it's saying. Is that correct?
Basically.
The true healing happens in the spiritual realm.
Yep. True healing happens on the spiritual. We may note that in the healing of very young children, there is often an apparent healing by the healer in which the young entity has no part. This is never so. For the mind-body-spirit complex in time-space is always capable of willing the distortions it chooses for experience, no matter what the apparent age, as you call it, of the entity. Well, this is in later sessions. Whereas the metaphysical or holistic healer will try to address the energetic roots of illness, others, such as those of our modern medical profession, focus on the signs of imbalance that manifest in the body complex. The latter type of physicians are also considered healers by Ra. However, the tendency within conventional medicine of seeing the body complex as a machine has, as Ra says, created the continuing proliferation of distortions towards what you call ill health, due to the strong chemicals used to control and hide bodily distortions. So the latter type of physicians are also considered healers by Ra, but the tendency of conventional medicine of seeing the body as a machine has created the proliferation of distortions towards what you call ill health, due to the drugs used to control and hide bodily problems. The end. Okay, just wanted to throw that out there, let you ponder, contemplate, and meditate on healing not being a physical, but a spiritual game. I like calling it a game.
Since we're going to stay here and we have 15 minutes left, can you go back to a concept guide? There's also, like you just read pieces of the healer, but if you scroll down a few pages, there's healing on page 122, I believe. 121. Almost there, keep going. You're on page 119, 120, 121. There you go. So here's the quote that we just said, 4.20, all over again. And it's talking about any entity may self-heal through balancing distortions, forgiving the self, and deepening knowledge of the self as the creator without aid of the healer. We all have the ability to self-heal by balancing distortions, forgiving ourselves, and deepening the knowledge of the self as the creator, the fact that we are the creator without aid of anyone else. If a healer is involved in this activity, the healer acts as an energizer or catalyst for this completely individual process. So whenever we are healing someone, especially, for example, when I do wound healings as an example, I am an energizer or a catalyst. I'm not the one doing the healing. When receiving the catalyst of the healer, the self will have the opportunity to accept a novel view of the self, a variant arrangement of patterns of energy influx, in other words, a new balance or a new configuration. If the entity to be healed at any level, including subconsciously, desires to remain in the configuration of distortion which seems to need healing, it will do so. So if an individual that is being healed, aka ourselves as an example, desires to remain in the distortions, the mind, whenever I see configuration, I think mental landscape or mental blueprint. So it is our understanding of this certain thing. There's pros and cons of every event. I like that you're looking at configuration. Thank you. Of every event, of everything, of every thought has a certain connection to it. So let's say my understanding of the word love is different than your understanding of the word love because I have a different past and a different definition for it than you do, even though it's the exact same word. And then it says desires to remain in that mental landscape of distortion, which seems to need healing, it will do so. So if that healer thinks that the mental landscape that they have in place is better or like they like it, there's no want to move. There's a desire to stay there for whatever reason. They're gonna stay there. They're not going to move up in the healing process into a new ascension spiral. All right, so if you go down a bit, so healing is facilitated. Healing is facilitated by, if you go down, healing is facilitated by seeing the mind, body, and spirit as a teaching resource for self-revelation. Knowing that anything that happens in our thought process, anything that happens in our body, anything that's going on with our spirit, our mind, body, and spirit is all for teaching us to self-realize. Thus, even the most difficult or seemingly permanent of diseases or conditions may be amenable to self-healing once their mechanism has been grasped by the individual. So all diseases and all conditions in the physical body can be healed, self-healed. No need for, I forget what the cancer thing is, like whatever you need for cancer. Whatever that word is, or antibiotics or herbal supplements. Thank you for chemo. There's no need for chemo or anything else. You have it all within you. All you have to do is remember that. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate everyone that wrote chemo. All right, so those are the little 3 paragraphs that I wanted to mention. Obviously, you can go through a concept guide yourself and go deeper into all these topics.
I love this last part. Healing is facilitated by seeing the mind, body, and spirit as a teaching resource for self-revelation. Thus, even the most difficult or seemingly permanent of diseases or conditions may be amenable to self-healing once their mechanism has been grasped by the individual. The healer within may be tapped by continued meditation, forgiveness of other self and self, and a greatly heightened respect for the self are also facilitators of healing.
Mm-hmm.
So forgiveness of other self and self and a greatly heightened respect for the self are also facilitators of healing. Whew.
The next line
are also facilitators of healing. And most significantly, the great healer of all distortions is love. This love arises out of progressively deeper realization of the self as the creator, of all as the creator. This connects to Ra's repeated encouragements to the instrument to contemplate herself as the creator. The solution to healing in this case is action that puts into practice the peaceful understanding in humility distortion that the entity is one with the creator, therefore perfected and not separate. Wow. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. Thank you so much for listening to this, and we'll see you in the next one.